Um, what's going on, everybody? Ivan back at the Iron Standard Podcast, and I got my homie Danny with me here. What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing. Just what today? What's today? Today's
Monday.
Monday. See, there we go again. This happens every time. It's Monday.
Right.
Just out, yeah, just out here with my unpaid plug for LOZ peptides. Figured
Some
I'd give
free
them a little
promo
shout
right
out.
there.
Free promo. Yep. You
Yeah.
never know. Maybe they could be a sponsor one day.
Yeah.
But you know, just figured I'd shout them out. Good
Yeah,
place.
absolutely,
Good
man.
product. Good products. They ship all over the wherever you want, man. They ship. So
Mm-hmm.
third party tested, top notch peptides.
Well, that might be a future topic for us to cover too. Is
I
some
think it's one we
peptide.
should cover some really
Yep.
soon, actually, because it's getting
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more traction.
Oh yeah.
And I am by no means an expert on it. So what I would like to do is try to find somebody that knows a little bit more about it, and have them on as a guest. And I think that would be pretty cool. So that's
Yeah,
going
that
to be
would be.
my next mission is to try to find a peptide guru or whatever the fuck they call themselves, but
Right.
one that actually fucking knows what they're talking about. I do because I can fucking look it up on the internet and read it to you, but I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like with Lindsay, we had somebody that lived it and has been doing it and knows it.
Yeah.
Can speak on that,
Right.
and then same with Alexis. So you know what I mean? So that's what I'd like to do with this. So I'm gonna actually start working on that here pretty quick.
Yeah, actually, on that note, that's kind of one of the things we want to talk about in this episode is, and that's on discipline. Because so many people want that outcome, but as they say, nobody wants the invoice. When it comes because discipline is expensive, in any capacity, and building that discipline is tough. I know that you and I both live and breathe this, and there's a lot of days. It's kind of a lot. There's a lot of days where you'll have to really avidly practice that discipline because that you know that is the things that
Oops.
you need to do that are better for you. It's kind of like the saying that you know you should be willing to hear the things that you need to hear and not the things you want to hear to soothe
Right.
your ego, because there's a lot of people out there in the world that I think genuinely they're good people with good intentions and they want to live a good life, but they're so brainwashed by everything in society that they fail to think on their own. And before you know it, these are people that end up stressed, depressed, and then they end up fucking dying. And it's like, what did you really spend your life on? I mean, you wanted to accomplish all these things, but you were unwilling to be disciplined about them because it's kind of like when you see someone that's massively successful, and most people's interpretation is, oh, well, that's a silver spoon baby. His parents had money, or he got lucky, or some dumb bullshit excuse rather than, did you ever think that they were massively disciplined about their goals? Did you ever think that they never negotiated? And I think that's what people don't acknowledge, really.
They don't acknowledge that. And the reason they don't acknowledge that is because 99% of your people have no fucking idea what discipline is or what it takes to accomplish something. So they would never even think the way that you just said. They automatically go to, oh, they won the fucking lottery or they
Mm,
had a trust fund or like what you said, whatever excuse. They're not even going to the core of what it actually is because they don't know what that's like. So they have no reference point to start from to begin with, which is really kind of sad because, like, you go through your whole life with no discipline like that. You're kind of just wandering around. What's your purpose? Like, someone
right.
with lack of discipline has to also have lack of purpose. And if you have lack of purpose, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you may be happy, you may be in a good place, but are you though? Like, are you really happy being mediocre? Because that's what that is. That's just mediocre like everyone else. And if you
Right.
are, if you truly are, then that's great. But I don't think most people that say they are really are. I think it's a herd mentality,
Right.
and I think they just say it to go. It's like when you someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" and they're like, "Fine." Like it's a reaction. No one ever
Right.
says the truth because they don't want to be bothered with like how you're really doing. You don't really want to know how someone's really doing, do you?
Right.
I mean, maybe you do, but you don't. What if they launch into a 5 minute story about how terrible their day's been? You didn't sign up for that, dude. You know
No.
what I mean? So it's like people just are reacting and they're saying something just for the sake of saying it. It's that herd mentality, and it's a herd mentality in the wrong direction. And it needs that whole thing needs to shift around and go the other way.
Yeah, I mean, you said happy place, and I wanted to touch upon that because, sure, let's say you do achieve a happy place, but I think that's also where the birth of being stagnant begins because a lot of people do become comfortable in their lifestyle. Maybe they're happy with family or financially, or they have all of it, right? And then they just kind of simmer there for a little while, and they're like, "Life's good, I don't need to grow. I don't need to do more." And that's exactly what kills potential because
Right.
you get so comfortable, and that's what people need to understand is that, let's say you have reached some level, and I think Andy Frisella actually made a really good analogy of this that really resonated with me personally. He said the most successful people, when they reach a certain level, they're right before they reach that level, they start thinking to, okay, so what's next? So they never actually really reach it. It's like
Right.
they get close to that level, and it's like, okay, so
You
I
raise the ceiling.
right. So how do you raise the ceiling? And I think that's what discipline is really about, is that it's a nonstop, never ending
Never ending.
practice.
Exactly. Yes.
It's a lifestyle of just really adapting. So speaking of lifestyle, in when I was in my 20s, for example, I was a big social guy. I smoked, I drank, I did all this stuff because I thought it was cool, right? But then as I started to get older, I realized more and more that, listen, this is not what life is about, you know? And I think, there's some merit behind age builds wisdom. So the older you get, the
Sure.
more wisdom you acquire. But nonetheless, I mean, it's never too early and never too late to embrace discipline, to realize that, you know what, you can have all these things that you aspire for, whatever your goals and dreams are, which, by the way, you said lack of purpose. There's a lot of people that lack purpose, and that's where they lack also the discipline, because in order to achieve something, you have to be disciplined.
In order to achieve anything you ever want, it's going to take discipline. I mean, I don't care what it is. Think that's why people. It kills me when it comes to health and fitness, and they can't be disciplined about their health and fitness. But go look
Right.
at the other side of it. They're disciplined about something. I promise you that. So it's a muscle that you have to exercise in different ways,
Hmm.
and if you can do it in one way, you can do it in another way. So it's 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 a lack of wanting to has a lot to do with it as well. Like people are afraid of change. They're afraid that things are going to be different, even if that different outcome is sometimes a better outcome. It still is a
Right.
little bit frightening and holds people back sometimes. And unfortunately, that just leads to more mediocre people, and we don't need any more mediocre people. I don't mean to be mean,
No.
but like that's not going to get us anywhere. Where it's got us where we are right now. I saw
Right.
was watching Rogan the other day, and he had a guest on. I can't pronounce the guy's name, but he's a writer, and he wrote a new book, and it's called uh, Suicidal Empathy. And the way that he broke it down is like people are so empathetic over things that don't require empathy. And like this is
Right.
the seventh place trophy thing, that's kind of the same path or way of thinking there. And like that's a huge, huge problem.
Oh yeah.
Like it's soft is what it is when you break it down and say it in a real way. He's saying it in a nice way, although everyone attacked him because of the way that he said it, and they took that play on words with the title of his book and turned it around. You know how retards do.
Well,
So, but
false
yeah,
perception.
that's what
Yeah.
that is. That's suicidal empathy, is what that is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this discipline comes with a price tag, and many people just don't want to pay a price tag. And personally, I've even went through this as I was going through the evolution of finding my true self, and I think that's what most people must go through to realize that you're gonna have to leave your past life, your old habits behind, and ditch them permanently, and really think hardly to yourself about, okay, let's say I want to get more fit, or I want to be in better health, or I want to build a business, whatever your goals are. What is necessary and how disciplined do you have to be in order to have a chance, not a guarantee? And that's what people also don't understand, is that discipline does not guarantee an outcome. It
No,
just gives you a runway.
yes, it,
And
it, yeah, exactly right,
yep.
exactly right.
Yep. And that runway is because I think there's too many people think that, oh, well, if I do ice baths or I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I fucking eat my meal prep for, I don't know, 3 months, that I'm going to look like fucking Hulk Hogan or some
Right,
dumb shit. And it's
right,
like, no, bro. It's like
right,
the evolution of you is different than anybody else. And that's yet to be portrayed. But still, learning how to be disciplined about those things is a lifetime transformation. It's not a temporary thing.
right. Well, this one actually, Andy was talking about this on today's episode of Q&AF. Somebody had wrote in with a question. I forget what the question was, but at the end of the day, his point was 70. Went back to 75 hard in the Live Hard program. This is a program that starts with 75 hard, and it's meant to last a year. It's not something you just are supposed to do and then stop. For these people that need to learn discipline, you got to keep doing it for that whole entire time. And then at the end of that year, this is just how you live now. And if you can always fall back on it, and can, if you're living it the right way, you're doing it. So
Right.
like, what I mean? There's no going back and doing it again. You're just doing it because you're living it. But that's what that whole program teaches, and it all starts with 75 hard. So like, I highly, highly, highly recommend anyone with a discipline issue in any aspect of their life, whether that's business, personal, relationships, finance, physical, whatever it could be, do that program and do it to the letter and do it to the T, and it will teach you that discipline. It's what it's designed to do, and it does work. I can promise you, it does work.
You said something about going back to your old ways, and since we're talking about the price of discipline here, I was reminded of the cheeseburger post in the Facebook group, and this is just so hilarious because I think so many people fail to understand that, listen, there's a big difference between, hey, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger once per week and, binging on cheeseburgers every day. And that's
Right.
just how you live because, food deprivation is a real thing. I think people like you and myself have gone through that. But the people who are perhaps trying to become more disciplined and change their life, they really struggle with understanding the mentality behind that. No, it's okay, once in a while, as long as you're not, binging and that's all you're eating every day. And you're saying that's okay, that it's part of your discipline. It's not. And
No,
it's okay to every once in a while indulge,
it's
right? But
someone saying it the way that you just described it is someone making an excuse. Here's the problem with that is when you're if you're in a weight loss journey and you're just starting out, let's say you're 200 pounds overweight, or I don't know what the average overweight American is. Let's just say it's 100 pounds overweight. You need to be cutting all that kind of food out of your diet. Okay. To tell if you're hiring a coach or someone to help you with that, and if they're telling you that once a week you can eat a meal like that, knowing that your relationship with food is so bad that that kind of food is what got you to where you are right now, get rid of them. You got the wrong person, because For that person right there, cutting that type of food out of their diet is a necessity to get them where they want to be. There's no such thing as a cheat meal for them. They need to do it to the letter. They need to get it done correctly.
Right.
Now, for somebody that is in athletic shape, that works out 7 days a week and has a very active job and is constantly on their feet and moving and eats clean 99% of the time, eating a cheeseburger once a week, every single week, is not going to be a bad thing. Eating a fucking
Mm.
donut once a week, every week, is not going to be a bad thing. That person's carrying a
Right.
higher amount of muscle mass. That muscle mass is making their metabolism higher, which is more expensive to run their body, which means they're burning more calories, which means they're burning right through all that stuff. So that's just fuel to them at that point.
Right.
So that people that say it the way you described it are saying it as an excuse. They want you to say, okay, do the bad thing. You know what I mean? We've talked about that with
Right.
75 hard when people are like, can I eat this? No, you fucking can't eat that. If you got to ask, the answer is fucking no. You just want somebody to agree with you so you won't feel bad when you do the shit you know you're not supposed to do. Let's
Right.
just fucking be real about it. I mean,
Yeah.
there are certain times when people don't know any better and they're asking for legitimate help, but you can tell the ones that's a very small percentage, and you can tell the ones that are doing that. For the most part, it's somebody looking for permission to do some dumb shit they know they shouldn't be doing, whether that's eat food or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To your point, speaking of food and habits too, is that the core aspect of the core principle of this is that understanding the difference between, hey, I can have this, and completely being deprived of it, and that's similar to you know um what discipline costs, which is sleep and the comfort and the convenience and the social approval. Now, that there's also a caveat to that is right. It's okay if you like to sleep in on a Sunday, right? Let's say you just want to Sunday's your day where I'm going to sleep in a couple hours, but for the rest of the week, you're following Monday through Saturday. That's your routine. That's your plan, right? That's you being disciplined. That's okay if that's what you've set in place, as opposed to saying, well, I'm gonna get up 7 days a week and I'm not gonna sleep in a single day, because if I do that, then you consider yourself as a failure, you know?
Right.
And I think that's really where a lot of people in society struggle from a discipline standpoint, that, the difference is it's okay to do it as long as you don't abuse it. I mean, it's a big difference.
Well, when they're just starting out like that and they're trying to learn these things and get more discipline, going from 0 to 100 all at one time is probably not such a good idea. Like you may want to start with something small, and then build that discipline, build confidence with that, and then go to something big. So if you're not going to working out at all, let's just say on the fitness as an example, if you're not working out at all and you start out, you go to 2 days a week to build your. If you say I'm going to go and work out 5 days a week and you've never done it, you're going to fail. Okay, you're going to fail. But if you say I'm going to go 2 days a week and you get your butt in there and you go those 2 days a week and you do that for a month, and now you bump it up, I'm going to try 4 days a week, and then you do that's you've got the confidence and you're building that discipline
Yeah.
on a scalable level instead of putting it all out there in the beginning and setting yourself up for something that you're going to fail at. You know what
You
I
know,
mean?
the
So there's ways to do it
Yeah.
without just taking the biggest bite you can take, and then not being able to chew it. Just take a couple of little bites, build that confidence, and then fucking you'll have the momentum. Next thing you know, you'll be going 5 days a week, and you'll want at that
Yeah.
point. A lot of people get to where, like me, I want to go 7 days a week because I need that kind of
Yeah.
physical activity in my life. It's just how I operate. So if you're one of those people, that's where you're going to end up.
Yeah, I mean, you made some really good points there too, because I'm not trying to deviate away from the importance of discipline and what it's going to cost you, because a lot of people really don't understand that it's a drastic shift. If you really want to become a beast of a person, then you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to do the things that you've never done, and that's the price that you have to pay. So whether it's changing your sleeping routine, that's a part of it. Changing your nutrition routine, that's a part of it. Changing your habits, that's a part of it. What you put in your mind, also who you associate with as
Bingo.
well.
Yep.
These are all important things because, as the saying goes, if you hang out with four dumbasses, who's the fifth one?
You.
You. So if you hang out with four smart people, who hopefully have accomplished the things that you're after, whatever that might be, and guess what? You're the fifth one that's brewing up because you're consuming knowledge and information from people who have done the things that you're after. It's, as they say, ironically, our podcast name, Iron Sharpens Iron. It's
Right.
just the way it works. And
Right.
I think a lot of people, like, even this past weekend, being surrounded with some people too. Like, I heard like conversations where people were like sharing, "Oh, I wish I could do this and I wish I could do that." Like, I heard a lot of that. It was at one of the restaurants that I was at, and I'm just kind of eavesdropping, right? And I'm just thinking on the back of my mind, I was like, why in the fuck is this person talking wishful thinking and saying, "I wish I could do this," and why are they not saying that they're doing it? You see
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and they're having it
Switch the
was guy
conversation from "I wish I could" to "Guess what I did." You
exactly
know what I mean? Yep.
right,
I
right.
get it. Yep. That's the
And
world
there's
we
a
live
lot of
in.
people out there like that who, you know, um, they don't understand. First of all, they fail with discipline and they quit because it gets hard. And they quit because they underestimate the price of discipline. They think that it's easily attainable, and it's not. I mean, if it was, you'd already be there, right? If you
Right.
really think about it, like,
Everybody would. Everybody would.
yep,
Like there would be no need for anyone to push anything like this because everyone would have everything. They'd have it all figured out. But it ain't easy, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay.
yep,
You know
yep,
what I mean? But if you're truly serious about it, if you can do it. Don't. That's the people like, well, I couldn't be that disciplined. I hate when people say that because they can. Like those words coming out of their mouth, there's negative talk towards themselves, and they're already putting themselves at a disadvantage. If they change that to "I know I can do this" and put their mind to it, I guarantee they get none of this is none of it's hard. If someone else has done it, you can do it too. I'm a firm believer in that.
yep.
Now, I'm not going to be a fucking Michael Jordan basketball player, or neither are you, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, if someone's built the business from the ground up, you can build a business from the ground up. If someone else has gotten from 200 pounds, lost 200 pounds, you can lose 200 pounds. So, you know what I mean? Like that, it can be done if someone else has done it. You just need to put your mind to it, get busy, and go do it. Like that's all there really is to it. There's no
Hmm.
magic, antidote or anything like that. It's just do the work. That's do the work.
Well, the thing is, you said something there too. Um, that is really important, and that is the fact that I think a lot of people get discouraged before they start because they've surrounded themselves with too many people who have normalized the discouragement that
Right.
for example, your earlier life, surrounding yourself with people who weren't optimistic, weren't positive, they were just kind of life on autopilot,
Yep.
going by the flow, whatever the flavor of the day was. Well, guess what? If you were to come and say, you know what, I really want to get in shape, I really want to change my habits because it's going to change my own individual perception. If it does that, well, guess what? You're going to look at life completely differently. So you're
Right.
telling them these things, and they're looking at you going, "Are you fucking crazy?" They're like they don't want that shit. Like, they have no interest. So what do? Your mind immediately says, "You know what? Maybe they're right. Like, this is not worth it. If they're not doing it, then why the fuck should I do it?" And I think society has become so comfortable with that, where whoever, even a significant other, can tell you, nah, that's not worth it. Like it just, just keep doing what you've been doing and keep doing what everybody else is doing. It's like,
Right.
well, how are you going to get a different outcome if you're not doing anything different?
It's negative peer pressure. That's what it is. Like
Yeah,
instead of even if what the right way to do it was that group of people, even if it wasn't for them, they should be encouraging their friend to go do that instead of poo pooing on it or putting shitting on it and fucking making him not want to fucking do it now. That's
right.
negative peer pressure. I mean, that's what that boils down to. We've talked about peer pressure since we were little kids. They don't fall for peer pressure. No, that's all that shit is, man. And it's like it's just bad. Like, are those? Then you have to ask me. I have to ask: are those people really your fucking friends? You know what I
Yep,
mean? Do they really? Because your friend would want what was best for you, right? And
yep,
like, if you're trying to better yourself by changing your life for the better, and they don't see that, and they want to put you down for it and make fun of you, keep you with them, I don't really think that's true friendship. I mean,
absolutely.
I grew up with guys that are like this around my whole life, and like so I know like exactly what you're talking about, and like you have to question: is that true? Yeah, you may have grown up together and hung out and been best buddies all through school, but is that a real friend? Because it should go the other way.
Absolutely. I mean, the people who will support you with your discipline, with the changes, with your goals and aspirations are the people that are going to encourage you. They're going
Right?
to say that you got this, you can do this.
Yeah.
And what's really saddening is that we live in a day and age where I feel like the amount of those people is getting smaller and smaller
It is.
because everybody else has been trumped or fucking Elon Musk or whatever, and they're just looking at shit from a very materialistic standpoint, and they don't really understand that, like, listen, you really got to focus on yourself. And it's actually kind of ironic because I had a similar conversation today with a fellow triathlete friend of mine, and kind of going through a dilemma right now because, ironically, to what we're talking about here is discipline. Like, I want it all. I want to build a business. I want to have be a great father, a husband, and I also want to be a triathlete. But the reality of things is, doing all those things probably is not possible because it's way too time consuming and involving. But my gut keeps telling me, because I was kind of seeking some input from my network and from people and trying to get some insight and stuff. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, how bad do I want this? How bad do I want to accomplish these things? Not what anybody else is saying. That's the same thing we're talking about here about discipline. It's not what your mom or dad or friends or a loved one or acquaintance or wife or husband wants. It's what you want.
Right.
And are you willing to be disciplined for those things? Are you willing to, do the work, putting the time, be trash talked, face backlash? Because all of that will happen. Ironically enough, I know Andy Frisella talks a lot about this, that he makes the joke about the vitamin shop, that everybody used to tell him that now your vitamin shop idea is never going to pan out. Now, if Andy truly believed that and gave up earlier on, he wouldn't be where he's at today.
Right.
And that's what people need to understand, is that it's discipline about you, not anybody else. And don't have the same expectations that you have of yourself of other people. Because
Right.
that's what people, I know I've done that in earlier years too. I used to think, why is it that people, don't want to be better? Why is it that they don't want to grow? Why is it that they don't want to become more successful, better humans, better members of society? Really? And then I realized that, you know what? It's just how fucked up society really is.
That's exactly what it is. And there's really not much we can do about it except try to change the culture one person at a time by each person getting better and changing, their lifestyle and getting healthier and, you know, changing their mindset. And hopefully that bleeds off into everybody around them. And that just keeps multiplying, this old snowball effect that we've talked about, you know, that
Yep.
that's the only way that it can happen because people, like, I almost think that most of these people are just lost. They don't, like you said, they've been Elon or they've been Trumped or whatever. And the problem with that is, and that's a good way to describe it. What that is people no longer know how to think for themselves. They don't have
Yep.
control over their own mind. They're letting whoever party they align with control their mind. They're letting whatever conspiracies they believe control their mind. And granted, a lot of the conspiracy theories have
Yeah.
we found out have been true. So,
Yep.
and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But what I'm trying to say is, instead of them controlling their own minds and their own thoughts and their own information, they're letting outside information do that. And the longer that takes place without being reversed, the worse off it's going to be, because it's just going to keep. And those people, if you think about it and look at all the statistics, I believe those people aren't even having kids now. So, like, where's all this
No.
going? You know what I mean? Where's all this going? So, if we don't fix it within that culture and get it flipped around, like, it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Well, to your point, what you just said about people not having kids specifically is just that kind of goes into what we're talking about here, because they're being influenced by the rest of society and being told that starting a family is very expensive, and they look at it and say, well, I don't have, so in a lifetime to raise a child from the age of 0 to 18, now it costs somewhere in the vicinity of $800,000. Okay. Now, when most people, especially the younger generation, hears this, who, by the way, from what I've been learning, is that they are driven too. But when they hear stuff like that, they immediately become discouraged. They say, "Well, I don't want a family. I can't support a family.
Right.
That's I don't have that kind of money." And hypothetically, even if they were to get a degree and a great job, still aren't able to do that. So they choose, which is good. I mean, they do choose to invest in themselves, but the flip side of that is just that they're being brainwashed by what society is telling them. Because let's face it, if it was so expensive to raise a family, we wouldn't have generations of people. People just
Right.
wouldn't have kids because it
Right.
seems so unrealistic. So there's definitely a lot of people out there who are willing to chase the things that they want, but there's also a higher number of people, especially in the younger generation now, that are heavily influenced by society and discouraged.
Right. And they don't know what they want. That's it. There's so much information coming at them at
Yep.
100 miles an hour through this thing that we're talking through right now, that they don't even have a fucking idea of what they really want or who they really are
Right.
or where they're going. They're just flying by the seat of their pants and hoping for a good turnout. And, like, we need people with plans. That's the way that we can help fix this. Is you got to have a plan
Right.
to get better and make the world around your little ecosystem better. And if everyone did that, the ecosystem would grow into a better ecosystem, and then we'd be in a lot better place. But, like, I just don't know. I don't know how we how to make that happen other than just to keep doing what we're doing and talking about it, because, like, that's the only
Yep.
way. I mean, that's really the only way we can help. I think. I mean, what else? Unless you got any ideas.
Well, I mean, words definitely have merit. That's one of the things that I've been kind of paying attention to. The podcast, obviously, that we do, it does help influence people. But at the core, you're going to have to leave your old life to become the new you. And what does that really cost? Well, it comes at a big price tag. And I think that's where a lot of people, are unwilling to make that leap because, to become more disciplined and live the life that you aspire to live, it's going to cost you relationships, it's going to cost you old habits, it's going to cost you your identity, really. So when you really look at that, it's like, okay, for example, can I stop hanging around with the deadbeats that I've been hanging around? Some people are like, I want my social life. Or, can you stop partying every weekend because you seek the social acceptance of your posse. Can you change your eating habits? Can you start going to the gym? Can you start reading? Can I start feeding your mind? So it's mentally, physically, spiritually, those three things. And guess what? Most people don't want to do that. So then it really comes down to, okay, you're talking about discipline, and we've talked about this in the previous episode, right? People just want the fucking title, right? Of I'm disciplined, but are you really disciplined? If you look at your own actions and what you do every day, that's a clear indication of how disciplined you are.
Well, you can look at a human being and tell whether they're disciplined or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I walk through a fucking Walmart. I can look at you and tell whether you're disciplined or not. You may be disciplined in making sure that you fucking eat a bag full of fucking donuts every day, but you're not disciplined in taking care of yourself. Now,
Right.
here's the thing. Like I say that knowing full well that that same person could be a very successful accountant and have a bank account full of money and be disciplined at that. So, this is my point though. If they can be disciplined at that, they can also be disciplined about what they're putting in their mouth or
Right.
what they're putting in their brain or how they treat other people or whatever the case may be, whatever issue that they need to work on or fix or may be concerned with.
Right.
So, we try not to judge people based on appearance, and everyone says that they don't, but like that's just one reason why you shouldn't is because you don't know what their personal life is like, and they could be very disciplined in the
Right.
rest of their life and just choose, because at that point someone like that is choosing to not be disciplined about their health. Like,
Right.
if the person I just described is that person, then that's a choice they're making now because they can obviously do it in other aspects of their life.
Sure.
Different story than somebody that's never done anything in their life before. And we've got a bunch of people out there that are like that. And like I said, I kind of feel bad for
Yeah.
them because I need to know if they did something that made them feel good about the result, they'd they'd understand what it was like, and they'd want more of that, and then that would create the urge to go out and want to be even more successful. So
So speaking of what you were where you were just sharing us, here's a prime example. So this past weekend I had to drive out of state, and I was telling my wife with the price of gas, which I think at the highest, I think I paid $6 and something per gallon for premium. I can't remember if it was in Kentucky or it was actually in Tennessee or both, wherever I stopped. So a 14-hour, okay, a 14-hour round trip in a car cost me nearly $300 in fuel.
yeah,
$300. Okay. And so I was sitting here at first, I was like, man, just frustrated. I'm like, this is the first time in my life I've ever paid this much money for fuel. Just insane. Insane. Now, the flip side of me was thinking to what we're talking about here is okay, I could sit here and dread this and say, okay, I paid almost $300 for fuel. Man, that's a lot of fucking money. Or think more positively and think, okay, what can I do to change my status quo to where I can afford $300 of fuel? Okay, like what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to become to earn more, to become more resourceful? Because when you become more resourceful, that can pay dividends because people are willing to pay you money for what you know.
right,
Basically, that's just really at the core of it, right?
yeah,
So where historically, like your typical, average person would sit there and dwell on the fact that they spend an immense amount of money on gas and then try to rectify, how they would go about like recouping that before you know it, they're going down a fucking rabbit hole. And that's just it. What we're talking about here is that you got to be able to say to yourself, what is it that I need to do? Am I willing to do this? Whether it's to get in shape, eat better, build a business, improve your mind, spirituality, whatever it might be. And are you truly willing to do it? Or you just are trying to talk yourself into it? Because there's a big
yeah,
difference into like saying, I want to do all those things and then you go out and actually do them.
You just have to decide, man. How bad do you want it? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't get it. I'm the type of person that, like, if I want to do something and I say I'm going to do it, I do it. Perfect example the other day when I was asking you about how to make these clips.
Hmm.
Like, while I was waiting for your, I asked you, and then in my head I was like, "What the fuck am I asking him for? I can figure it out myself."
Yeah,
And literally did, and now can create them. So like, it's not. And I didn't. I've never fucking done this shit before, dude. And granted,
right,
this programming that they have now makes it super simple,
right,
but there's still things you got to know how to do. You don't want to like it's for example with a lot of my fitness clips. There's when I take my recordings, I start it with my watch, so you got to go in there and trim that part out of it because you don't want to see that part
right.
and things like that. But like, just my point is like if you want to do something, just go do it. Put your mind to it and go do it. Don't be afraid. Don't wait for permission. No one's going to give you permission. Probably no one cares, to be completely honest with you. And that may
No,
hurt some people's feelings, but you shouldn't care if they care or not because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. You're not doing it to impress anybody else. You're doing it to better you. You're doing it to better your business. You're doing it to better your life. You're doing it to better your health. Whatever the fucking reason is, you're doing it for you, not anyone's approval, not anyone's fucking anything, just for you. As soon as you look
yep.
at it that way, you'll have a lot better fucking results because you won't be worried about what fucking all these fucking idiots are thinking or saying because it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said too is this that kind of goes along the lines of acceptance and validation, because as human beings we psychologically actually we seek that, because we're the kinds of creatures that actually want to be accepted, we want to fit in, it's in our nature. However, if you want to change your life, if you want to become more disciplined, if you want to achieve exceptional things, you're gonna have to very fast learn about discomfort and learn that, you know what, being comfortable, um, is actually very costly, because when you become comfortable, so um, what I was trying to say actually here is that your goals are expensive, but comfort can't afford them. So, meaning that a lot of people like to get comfortable because it's how most people live. They get a good job, they make good money, they buy a
Right.
house, they buy a car, and they get their paycheck and they're like, okay, I'm comfortable here. But guess what? That is where you stop growing, because you're
Yeah.
not learning anything new, you're not changing yourself, you're not. And honestly, I feel like with everything that's going on with politics and the news right now, more and more people are scared shitless to try something new because of the potential repercussions, that might come with that. And that's exactly what you need to do. That is exactly what you need to do. You need to become comfortable with, being the only person to stand up when everybody else is sitting down, because you need to ask a question for yourself, or you know being looked at weirdly or talked about on social media weirdly, and being okay with that, because you're doing you. And that's what people don't understand, is that is the price that you pay for
Right.
discipline, to leave your old life behind, your old habits, the things that you used to do, because they no longer serve your purpose. And people need to understand that, because listen, it's not easy, okay? Because if it was, more people will be doing it, you know, and it's hard for a reason. In fact, I saw an image earlier today of Gary Vaynerchuk. He was holding a bag, and on the side of the bag, it was written that said, "Anything that's easy is garbage," and that is absolutely true. How many
Yeah.
times have you done something that was easy that paid big dividends?
Well, here's the thing: convenience, comfortable, all that shit. What it does is it breeds laziness.
Yep.
I was talking to Alexis the other day. She made a post about convenience and how convenience is. Everybody wants things to be as convenient as possible, and my response to her was convenience breeds laziness. and that goes along with comfortable. The more comfortable you
Right.
are, the more lazy you're going to be. You ever notice someone that gets a job, they get this new job, and they get in there and they're busting their ass and they're working hard and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're doing this and they're doing that. And now 2 years down the road, they've gotten super comfortable and they don't do this, that, and the other anymore. They just kind
Yep.
of in fucking remote control mode and just like a robot going through the motions because they're too comfortable. That breeds
Yep.
laziness. That's where that came from. So you got to be hungry and want to constantly be improving. And if you don't want to constantly be improving, then what are you doing? What is your purpose? Because your
Right.
purpose should want to be improvement, constant improvement.
Right.
So like you have to ask yourself, this shit all ties together with everything we're talking about here. That's what it boils down to is the lacking the discipline to figure all this shit out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. People say that they want more, but they're still stuck protecting those habits, that they've been so used to, because that's all they've known. Like you said, the job scenario, that's a fairly typical one, actually. And in fact, LinkedIn is actually a prime network for this, is because I see so many people that, got let go, especially now with the rise of AI. So many people are getting let go and they're just dreading it and dreading it and dreading after that. And my only response to that is, okay, did you get comfortable when you were in there? Like, what, if you really think back to your point, when you started out versus now, do you think you're more productive? Do you think you're more resourceful? Do you think you bring more value to the table? And most of these people just don't. They're just
Just keep it
autopilot.
real. If they were let go, it's for a fucking reason. Nobody lets go a good employee unless
Yep.
they're a fucking like a behavioral problem or something like that.
Right.
So if they were let go, it's because they did. It's because like if it was an AI related thing, they probably refuse to learn how to fucking use it to their advantage,
Right.
which is what anyone that's in that realm should be doing right now is learning how to use it to your advantage. When your boss
Right.
comes to you and says, "We have this AI that can do your job," and you can be like, "But wait, I've learned how to use AI to do my job better and faster." So like, let's get that through our heads, people. Don't let
Yep.
it. Don't be afraid of it. This is what happened when computers came out. I'm old enough to know when computers came out, and everyone said, "Oh, I'll never have one of those in my house. I'll never do this. I'll never." Not every fucking single person has a computer. Same when fucking smartphones came out. I'll never have a phone that I carry everywhere I go. Well,
Yep.
fuck if everybody doesn't have one where carry it everywhere they go. Even fucking 12-year-old fucking kids carry them everywhere they go.
Oh yeah.
So you can't say to say that same shit about AI is sounds fucking ridiculous because you're just gonna get left in the fucking dust. And I'm sorry.
If you're not growing, you're slowly dying. Absolutely.
Well, this is when you said that earlier. I was gonna make a point, but I didn't want to cut you off. Like anything, what
Hmm.
is it? If a tree is not growing, it's dying. If a fucking weed is not growing, it's dying. If
Yep.
if if you're not growing, you are fucking dying. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. You're not sitting still. There's no maintaining. There's a fitness influencer. He's an old bodybuilder. Posts a lot of content. And he said this today. He's like, if you are not moving forward, you're moving backwards. There's no maintaining in life. Like
Yeah.
even if you're trying to stay above water with your head above water, you're still having to put out an extra amount of work to stay that way because time makes things grow exponentially. So if you are not moving forward in some aspect in your life, you are literally moving backwards.
Yeah, I mean that's again is this is why discipline is so important, is because you need to be constantly growing. You need to be striving for the things that you want to achieve, goals, dreams, and really have a strong sense of purpose. Because now more than ever, with everything that's going on, there's a much higher demand for people who need to be more disciplined about anything. And because by becoming more disciplined, you become a more contributing member of society. In doing
Right,
so, that's how you influence the world in a positive way by
right,
saying, surrounding yourself with people who, like, we have some people in our group, I think that, aren't quite on the level that we are, but they're definitely trying. They're wanting to become better, and you can
right.
tell by their actions they're not that far ahead in their journey, but they're still trying. And then there's the people who are like, oh well, I made my own version of 75 soft or whatever. It's like, no, it's called 75 hard for a reason. There's no 75 soft. It's a dead set program or anything in that capacity, right? And that clearly tells you that like these are people that really don't strive for discipline. They don't want to change. They're hacking, finding tweaks to find the easiest route.
Right. That's all. That's all they're doing. They're copying is what they're copying something that's effective, making
Yep.
changes to it, and then trying to use it as their own. And that's never like just do the work, man. Like you at the
Right.
end of the day, even when you do it that way and you do it wrong, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna realize you did it wrong and you have to go back and do it the right way any fucking way. So you might as well just do it the right way the first time. Like
Yep.
all that fucking trying to skirt around everything and fucking make it your own and make it fit your lifestyle. That's the fucking problem right there. Everything that doesn't fit your lifestyle. That
Yep.
nothing's gonna there's no such thing as balance, work-life balance. If you want to be successful at work, your home life's gonna suffer. If you want to be successful at home, your work life's gonna suffer. There is no fucking balance in that. Like it's you one thing is gonna suffer if you want to improve at another. Like you can get as close as you possibly can, but they're not gonna balance out because if you they do, then you're just standing still. Oh, when a balance beam is balanced, guess what? It's not fucking doing moving in any fucking direction, up or down. That's
Right.
not what we want here. We want the
Right.
one thing that we want the most to keep going up, which means some other things are going to go down. Like it's. I mean, when you think about it in that aspect, I don't understand why people don't understand it because it makes a lot of
So you
sense.
made a really good point. And actually, this is a question I want to leave viewers and listeners with: is what are you unwilling to sacrifice for the life that you want? And you have to your point, you make a very good point just now that, if you want to have a good home life and you really strive for that, and you also want something else, it's similar to what I just mentioned earlier about all the things that I want to accomplish, and I know others watching and listening to this episode of the podcast that they have to understand that there is no such thing as fucking balance.
No,
There isn't, because like you said, you got to level out the scales. If you balance the scales, where's the growth?
right?
There
Exactly.
is none because
Right.
it's at a standstill. So that's actually a really good answer to something that I personally was thinking about earlier today on whether or not I want to do here in the next several months, because it seemed very unrealistic and I was really struggling with it mentally to figure out, like, is this something that I really want to do? What am I going to have to trade off, or what am I going to have to sacrifice? And to your point, you made a very good point. I think people can be disciplined, that can have multiple things in their lives, but
Right.
understand that, some things are you're not going to be, as heavily involved in, as opposed to the things that you're really striving for. But it's doable. I mean, look at someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Who was, a governor of state of California, and what he's done, and his early days, of bodybuilding and all of that, and still living that avid lifestyle even at this age. So it is possible, to do several things. I just think society has a bad habit of talking people out of being more disciplined and doing things.
Well, they want everyone to buy into that work-life balance, and I used to
Yeah.
think that was the thing too. But the more you think about it, is like it's how is that how? Like it doesn't make sense. Like if you want to be mediocre and just fucking fly down the middle and never, grow, then I guess that's okay. But for anyone, and I
Right.
think especially with our group is a lot of people that want more. Like people aren't in there because they want to just live a normal life. Those people are in there because they want more out of life, and that's where this whole thing comes in. Where they again on today's Q&AF, he was talking about this exact topic about balance and how it doesn't exist. And I'd
Right.
urge anybody to go listen to that episode today and get his explanation because it's pretty good. It's not much different, but like it is what it is, though. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want out of life? Whatever that one thing is, something else is going to have to suffer for the time being. Now, if you want to get physically fit and get, and that's your goal,
Yeah.
and some other things suffer, and you get physically fit, now you can shift that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And as long as you're maintaining that level of physical fitness, but like, initially, something's going to suffer for something else to grow. It just has to.
Yeah. So with that being said, man, I think we covered quite a bit on discipline, and hopefully, people got some good takeaways from this. This
Hope
is
so.
really important. Go ahead.
I said I hope so.
Yeah, so because I mean, bottom line is just that you need to be constantly growing. If you're not growing, you're slowly dying. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed the audio and the video episode, make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Specifically, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us at the Iron Standard Podcast as well. And stay tuned for future episodes.
Like, share, comment. Check out LOZ Peptides. See you next time.